Hey Scouts! Today we're going to do an experiment with a substance called Oobleck. Normally, things exist as a gas, like the air we breathe, a liquid, like the water we drink, or as solids, like this hammer and cake pan. But Oobleck is different. Oobleck, drawing its name from a Dr. Seuss book, Bartholomew and the Oobleck, acts like a liquid when poured, but a solid whenever you put force to it. Making Oobleck is real simple. It just takes two ingredients, cornstarch and water. Now you can add food coloring to the water to make it all sorts of fun colors and a very slimy mixture if you want, but it's not necessary. So first, we add about a cup of cornstarch to a mixing bowl so that we can mix it in. Alright, there we go. Now if you're going to add food coloring, add your food coloring now to the water separately so that you can get that all mixed together. Then we want to slowly add water to the cornstarch and mix it together. Now the best mixer is your hands. Really get in there and just kind of mix it up. And give me a minute to kind of get this going. Right now it's got to get the water mixed in a little bit more. I should be using about a half a cup of water, but there's no real magic ratio, so it's not going to be exact. You're just going to have to try to mix it together. It can be a real challenge sometimes. Alright, so we spent a bit of time mixing in our Oobleck. It does take a little bit of trial and error. You might have to add a little more water, add a little more cornstarch, but eventually you'll probably get it right to where something that's fun for you and your Scouts. So this is kind of the ball I was talking about a second ago. You can kind of roll it together and keep it together, and then it just kind of melts through your hands. So as you apply force, it becomes more solid, rolling it up into a ball, and then when you relax, it runs through. You can see it looks all nice and slimy. So one thing to do is to get it in a bowl or a pan like this, and then give it a punch. You can see that it really didn't splash or anything whenever I punched it because of all the force, so it remained solid. But then, once my punch is done, if I go slowly, you can see my fist has sank down into the Oobleck all the way to the bottom. Alright. Another thing you can do is to put it into a cup and do the same thing on a smaller scale and just try to poke your finger into it quickly. And even here you can kind of see that it takes a minute for my finger to go all the way in. I'm gonna get some of this Oobleck off my hands, and then we're going to see what happens with a spoon. So this is normal water, and you can see, you hit it with a spoon and it just kind of splashes around, and you can see it waving around and generally being water or a liquid. This Oobleck, if I hit it with the spoon, you can see it just stay on top, and there's no real splash at all. But then it'll slowly sink in if I leave the spoon there for a second. One last, almost last little experiment. So if I get my hands down in here and get them to sink into the bowl, all nice and covered up, then I try to pick them up quickly, I get the whole pan to come up too, and it takes a minute for it to actually let go. Because gravity is applying force and trying to pull the pan away from my hands, making the Oobleck stay solid until it slowly is eventually able to fall. Alright. Can also be kind of fun to see this if you can transfer some of your Oobleck over into a bag. Then here we go. I did this a little earlier. We've got it into a bag. and you can see it kind of flowing around in there a little bit. The bag helps contain some of the mess that I'm dripping all over the table here, but once you let it kind of settle, drop it, and you can see that it kind of bounces. It's going to land on this point and then just roll right off to a side because it's being solid. Dropping and hitting applies all that force to the shape, and so it doesn't change. But then once it lands on the table, you can see it kind of run to the rest of the bag. So I'm going to let this settle here, and then it just kind of oozes and fills out the rest of the bag. And I can do the same if I let it settle this way. Pick it up real quick and drop it. It's really going to kind of stay that way and keep its shape until it's had a chance to ooze and flow like liquid whenever there's not a lot of force being applied to it. That is some experiments with Oobleck. And maybe you can think of and try some more on your own too, because this stuff is just fun to play around with. Be a fun afternoon, just playing around with Oobleck. Watch it become a solid and a liquid, and just feel it kind of ooze between your fingers. And now it's time to clean up our Oobleck experiment. So this part is very important. Do not dump Oobleck down your drain. If you do, it becomes black and will clog up your drains and generally make a big mess. Instead, dump it in your trash or take it outside and mix it in with your garden dirt or other soil. You can wash it off your hands with water and soap and use a damp rag to clean it up off of your surfaces. Once it's had a chance to dry, you can just brush it off of your clothes. And now for some of the science. So at the beginning of the video, we mentioned that matter usually exists as gas, liquid, or solid. Sir Isaac Newton proposed that liquids should flow at a predictable, constant rate, and we call these Newtonian fluids. Water is a perfect example of a Newtonian fluid. Think about it. When you're swimming in the pool, then the water is flowing around you at a constant rate, regardless of whether you're trying to go fast or slow. But Oobleck is different. When you try to move fast, it becomes solid. When you slow down, it becomes more liquid. This is called a non-Newtonian fluid. But Oobleck is a lot more fun to say. There are other non-Newtonian fluids as well, like quicksand, ketchup, and mayonnaise. Quicksand and Oobleck become more solid the more force that you apply to them, while ketchup and mayonnaise actually become more liquid. There are even some fun experiments you can do on a larger scale with Oobleck. You can look for videos of people taking Oobleck and actually making a sidewalk out of it. Yeah, you can walk across it as long as you keep moving. If you stop, you'll sink and could get stuck. Well, that's it for our Oobleck experiment. We hope you'll come back again soon and join us for some more fun in scouting.